Good morning, y'all. It's Leah from the Oppenheimer Ranch Project. It is Monday, November 8th, and I am here to give you an update on these chicks who will be 6 weeks old in 2 days. As you can see, things have changed a little bit here. I have now reset up the smaller brooder over here, and I've split up the birds because they were running out of room and getting kind of stressed. So over in here, I have mostly roosters, but not entirely. I would prefer to have all of the ladies separated, but just in terms of space, this was going to work out the best. So I was shooting for about 15 birds in here and 35 birds in the big brooder here. It didn't quite work out that way. But we have a little bit more space in here, but as you can see, I also have 2 little babies here in this cage. Hi, babies! The black and white bird is supposed to be a Plymouth Barred Rock, and he's supposed to be a rooster. What a great shot that is. I'm not sure that this is a rooster. I don't know, this is an odd bird. I call this bird Tiny Guy because he's very tiny compared to most of the other birds, especially the other Plymouth Barred Rock roosters. So I don't know if he's just, also his coloring is a little different. He's much darker, and his leg coloring is different. So I don't know what's going on here. I'm kind of wondering if this might be actually a Dominique and the hatchery made a boo-boo, and it may also be a lady. Time will tell, but it doesn't appear to be a lady at this moment, and I'm judging that by the comb, which for all of my other roosters that are evident at this point, their combs have turned pink or red. You can see that. So, time will tell. And the other bird in here with Tiny Guy, or Tiny Lady as the case may be, is a speckled Sussex. So, the reason that I have these 2 birds in a cage is because I had a major problem in the last 2 days, which is that birds started picking at each other's feathers. I have this one bird in here, if I can find what I suspect to actually be a him rather than a her. Ooh. So that mostly white bird that I'm following, just went by the drinker, that I have been calling Slowpoke. Slowpoke has been really slow to develop, growing feathers at a much slower pace than everybody else. And somebody got a hold of his or her tail feathers, and I'm going to say he was bleeding a good bit, so I had to treat that. I used a couple of different items. I'm going to show you one. This is a product called Wonder Dust. It basically just stops bleeding. I guess it's technically designed for horses, but I do not know of any reason why you cannot use it on chickens. I don't know that it creates a requirement of egg withdrawal, meaning you have to stop eating the eggs for a while because of the drug that's in there. I don't believe that there is any issue with that with this product. I don't know that for sure. I guess maybe I should look into that a little deeper, in fact. But I do know that it is often recommended by other chicken raisers. That doesn't mean that they're right. There's another product that a lot of people use called Blue Coat to deal with bleeding wounds, and it leaves a blue, sorry, I'm just backing up here because I'm trying to get something out of my car. It leaves a blue residue, not just a residue, a blue coating, and that blue coating helps prevent other birds from, gosh, pardon my lack of camera focus here, prevents other birds from picking at that wound typically because they're not attracted to the blue color, whereas they are attracted to the red color. Now, the Wonder Dust does darken a bleeding wound quite a bit, and so it does change the color, and that is helpful, but I find that it doesn't last as long as some other products. So I treated this bird with Wonder Dust, and that was okay for a little while, and then the picking started again, and the bird was bleeding again. So I used another product that I just bought recently as something to try. This is called Hen Healer. Come on, camera. This is called Hen Healer. This product, if I can get this unscrewed without dropping my camera. Hang on, take a look at the litter and maybe a bird for a minute. There we go. This product is really blue. You can put this on a wound and this will help prevent picking. It probably doesn't taste very good if they try. Plus you've got that blue color. And as you can see on the jar, this specifically says that it does not require any egg withdrawal. So I did that. This is a little harder to apply than I would prefer, only because you have to use your finger. That's okay. I wouldn't hesitate to use it. And it did seem to work for a while, but I did find, it doesn't seem to like dry up, and I did find later the bird that it was applied to was preening it off. So then I went back to my trusty Pick No More lotion. I really like this product. You can squirt it right out of this top. It is purple. It dries very dark and kind of hard. I actually use this on our pig as well, because sometimes on days where it's overcast and the birds aren't outside quite as much, they'll hang out in the pig hut with the pig, and then they're kind of bored, and it's sort of nice that they'll pick parasites off of her skin, but sometimes they also break the skin, and then it becomes a wound, and they continue to pick at it, and the pig bleeds. The pig doesn't really seem to care, to be quite frank. Wow, something just happened. Just heard something fall. I don't know what that was. I guess I'll find out later. The pig doesn't seem to mind all that much, but obviously it just becomes a wound that gets worse and worse as the chickens continue to pick at it. So anyway, I will also put this on the pig. And I find this pretty effective, and it's easy to apply. So after the whole incident with the bird getting his tail feathers really picked at, I later found, after I treated it, I actually moved him from the smaller brooder to the larger brooder, simply because this gives him more space to run around and hide from whoever might be picking on him. I'm wondering, I'm just noticing this little bird on top of the box. This is a new feeder that I got. Could possibly be a rooster. We will see. Time will tell. It's a Barnavelder there. So after I treated that bird and sort of got things to a point of stasis, and shortly after that, then I noticed that I had some other birds that were doing some feather picking. And in particular, this speckled Sussex over here who's eating was absolutely relentless, running around, picking off other birds' feathers like crazy. Would not stop. This was her main activity. And I was like, well, this has to end somehow. And it was pretty bad, and I didn't really have any way to adjust the situation. So I decided that the best thing to do, and I typically don't do this because I don't want to mess with the pecking order, but I decided to remove her. And then shortly after that, I noticed that tiny guy or gal was doing the same thing. So I decided to remove him as well, and I was a little worried about putting them in here together because I thought they might just be picking at each other endlessly, but it's interesting because since I put them in here, they have both stopped. Neither of them are picking at each other. So kind of interesting because I guess I interrupted the behavior. I'm wondering if this will have a long-term effect. We will see. I may try putting these two back into the brooders to see what happens, although it's very hard to catch a bird in there sometimes, so I'm a little loath to do that, but I may at some point. I did have a couple other birds in this brooder that were doing a little bit of picking. It wasn't too bad, so I decided to leave them in there. I did treat a couple of other birds with bleeding wounds, and everything seems to be fine right now. We might have a little bit of picking, but I don't presently see any major wounds. I will keep my eye on it, and I'm also going to recoat the wounds of the birds that I treated yesterday to make sure they're not visible to the other birds and they get a chance to heal. One other thing that I did is, so last week I dropped the temperature down to 65 last Wednesday, and at this point in the year I can't really get the temperature in this garage down any lower than that. It gets down to about 60 in here at night, so I'm going to start just keeping the heat lamps off. And I have been using only the infrared bulbs for heat, but it is important for them to have light. It's been good because they've had total darkness at night, so they're just sleeping at night, so that's been nice. And they're also very calm at night, so in fact, the last time I changed the litter and also split up the birds, I did this in the dark with a red headlamp, just to keep them really calm, and it made things a lot easier. Chickens are very, very calm in the dark. So one of the reasons why if you need to move them to a new house or something like that, you can do that at night, and that's a lot easier, and it's less stressful for them as well. So what I'm trying to get to here is that I'm no longer using the red heat bulbs. I did have a regular light bulb plugged in to one of these and on during the day to give them some extra light, since it is important for their development and it's not that bright in this garage. However, yesterday I changed those bulbs to, I happen to have some just red colored bulbs, and I put those in. So they're getting some light, but it's red light, so it makes it harder for the birds to see any red picking wounds. So I think that helped a little bit as well. Now, in light of all of this, these feather picking problems, it is clear that the birds are a little stressed. I think they're a little less stressed since we've made these changes, but they are kind of stressed, stressing me out a little bit. And so I decided yesterday that I'm actually going to put these birds out earlier than 8 weeks. I need to wait for some weather to pass. I also need to move some adult birds from one house into the other and clean the house that they're going to be living in. A few other changes. But once that is all done, these birds are going to go outside because I think they will be much happier and less stressed that way. I'm just a little bit tentative about it, only because, and it's sort of hard to tell, looking in here. I'm just going to open this right now. But a lot of the birds, not all of them, but a lot of them don't have many feathers on their backs. It's hard to tell because usually their wings cover their backs. So, but it hasn't been that cold. If we need to, we could temporarily put some heat in the house. That's not something we typically do. We like to let our birds acclimate to the outdoor temperatures. But on a temporary basis, I think it's okay while these babies are young. Ideally, you put birds out when they're fully feathered. Also, when their temperature in their brooder has reached the ambient temperature. Hi, everybody. That is a speckled Sussex on the left, and right there on the right is a Barnet elder. So, I'm going to close this. Everybody scatters when I move this. Sort of a change of topic, but one thing that I wanted to mention that I should have mentioned in this video series a long time ago in the beginning is about food. I did talk about medicated food versus non-medicated food. Medicated referring to food that has a coccidiostat in it to prevent coccidiosis. I do not use that. I choose not to. I prefer to have my birds gain some natural immunity to coccidiosis, and that seems to have worked out pretty well for me. But most important is that chicks, if you're going to buy feed for them, need to use the starter grower formula. It is higher in protein, but more importantly, it does not have added calcium. Laying hens eat a different food that has added calcium that they need because they're pushing out so many eggshells. They're taking that calcium, or they will take that calcium from their bones if they don't have that added calcium, and obviously that would create a health problem. Ideally in, let's say, if a fully free-range situation, ideally they're getting enough calcium from the soil and the other things that they're eating, one would hope. You cannot, under any circumstances, give layer feed to chicks. That extra calcium will destroy their kidneys. So it is this chick starter or grower formula for 16 weeks. At 16 weeks, you can start feeding layer feed. And that works because some breeds will start laying eggs at 16 weeks. Others take longer than that. But that's an appropriate time, and they should be able to handle that calcium, and they will be using it up as they go. By the way, it may not be the best thing to give your adult roosters layer feed because they also don't need that extra calcium, and it is kind of taxing on their kidneys. I always have, because it's been impossible to, my birds were not separated, and so it was impossible to give them a different food. I could do that soon, because we are going to have a separate rooster house where the roosters are going to live, and then the roosters will be brought into the hen yards periodically to fertilize eggs. So I could even just give them this chick food, and they can eat that, and that's a little bit better for their health. I've not seen any roosters have major kidney problems from eating layer food, but I'm not sure that any of our roosters have ever lived long enough for that to crop up. So when it comes to feather picking, there's some tricks that you can use. You can try hanging things in your brooders, like, a piece of fruit. Sometimes things like a shiny little aluminum pie plate will be interesting to them, but I just tried to hang some seltzer cans in these brooders the other day, and it's fine over here, but nobody's playing with it. Over here, I found these birds were absolutely terrified of the cans, so I took them out. I've also been, sorry about the flashing, I've got a fluorescent light above me that's acting up. We can also try giving our chickens mealworms. They love these, and I just drop them in there, and it gives something for them to scratch around in the litter for. Keeps them a little bit occupied. So, this picking thing, happens because of stress, it happens because of boredom, because there's not enough to do. It's much better when they're outside and have all kinds of things to scratch in and pick at and all that. So, therefore, these birds are going to go out early. I think they'll be able to handle the temperature, and I think they will be happier that way. So, going to get started on doing that prep work pretty soon, and these babies will go out, and it'll be kind of nice not having all these chicks in my garage. Oh, by the way, I mentioned in another video that this does raise quite a bit of dust. The majority of stuff in my garage is covered in dust, and that kind of sucks. I did set up an air filter that I don't have running at this moment for the noise, and that does seem to be helping to some degree, but it is quite a lot of dust. So be prepared for that if you're going to raise your chickies. So we'll just come over here and say hello to our primary feather pickers, troublemakers. I'm so glad they're not picking on each other in here, because that was really an issue. They're occupied. It's good. Remember, those beaks are so important. They do everything with those beaks. Okay, the rest of the video series is available in the the chickens and eggs playlist. I will put a link to that in the description box. I will try to leave a link on the video itself at the end of the video. I will also leave some links. A couple of people asked for links to equipment, like the feeders and drinkers that I'm using. So I will leave links to that. Oh, speaking of feeders and drinkers, I have a new feeder here. I'm liking this feeder a lot. It holds 5 pounds of feed. It can't get quite as many birds around it as I would like. So I'm going to keep using one of those green feeders to make sure everybody gets a chance to eat when they're hungry. But I do like this box. So I will include a link to that. It's a little expensive. It's like 25 bucks, which seems like a lot for a plastic box, but it is working out pretty well. So, and I think it saves on the space in the brooder a little bit. So I'm liking that. Yeah, so I will leave links to equipment, to the very important Stories Guide to Raising Chickens, as well as the Chicken Health Handbook, which is also by Gail Demeraux, the queen of backyard poultry, as far as I am concerned. And yeah, check out those links if you want to know more. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right, take care.